Tractor Ballet Epilogue Part 2. Speaking soothingly, I approached the big boy as he eyed me warily, but displayed no fear or any attempts at aggression. He didn't shift his stance. His left hoof stayed aloft. Something bad back there, no doubt. After exchanging some small talk with Jojo, I proffered a personal introduction, and here's where it gets funky to explain, as I have no idea how it really works from the horse's perspective. Gently pulling the big horse's head down to my face, I cupped my hand under his muzzle and filled them with my breath. Jojo could lift his head and turn away, refusing this very personal greeting, or he could accept it and take the breath in through his nostrils. I was relieved when Jojo accepted and began to draw in as I continued to exhale into my cupped hands. Now here's where it gets really weird. The horse will draw a breath as you continue to blow, suddenly lift their head a little, actually stop breathing momentarily, and their eyes will go unfocused. Then they'll give their head a little shake and look back at you. How it is they express how they're feeling about you at this point, and how it is us humans can read it, well, I don't know, that's the best I can do to explain it. It's funky and surreal. I never thought of it before, but maybe the humans stop breathing and their eyes glaze over too. You know? Anyways, Jojo and my moment had passed. His response could have ranged from punking me right off to love at first sight. Well, you seem acceptable, Jojo said. Not like as I have any say in the matter anyhow as to my fate. I'm awful weary. All I can ask is for you to be not too terribly abusive of me whilst you finish me off. Thanks, Jojo, I said, his response being neither a surprise nor a disappointment, and about the best I'd hoped for. You know the drill, I stated. I know what I'm doing. No, ain't I heard that before, he said with a heart-rending, deep-bone weariness. Look, kid, if you're inept, clumsy, or rough, I've been around. I know all the subtle, dirty tricks. I've been around too, Jojo, I said. You'll stand on my foot and pretend you don't realize it. Lean on me while I tend your hooves. Give me a good squish in the stall, etc., etc. Well, all right, you may proceed with my full cooperation, he said with a tired dignity. Thanks, Jojo, I said. I began to move down his side, talking soothingly, and running my hands over him. Trusting Jojo, I moved with confidence towards his hind end to see why he still had his left leg aloft. The sight was appalling. A not too recent nasty gash running from, I'll say, ankle to knee. It was an untended mess that threatened the tendon. I'd never seen anything this bad, and I was shocked. Crossing behind Jojo and coming up his right side, I studied his hooves as I continued to run my hand over him. Those hooves were neglected, but they're not the hooves of an old horse, nor the angle of his ankles. What isn't right with this picture, I thought as I rounded up to face Jojo again. If you don't mind, I said, grasping his chin gently. No worries, he said as he obligingly opened his mouth wide and curled his lips open. I stuck my head in his gaping maw, so astonished was I. I studied his teeth intentionally. Unthinkingly, I thrust my hand into his mouth and ran my fingers over teeth and gums. Dad, I squalled, reeling back. He's had the guts run right at him. How old do you think he is? The old man asked, a mixture of pride for my take in the matters and sadness for the state Jojo was in. Can I give him 14 by his teeth? I gasped, still reeling. Not bad, the old man said. He's 12. It took me a while to try and absorb the implications. He's been, I sputtered. Foundered, the old man stated solemnly. Still reeling, I studied Jojo some more. You bought him, didn't you? I turned to the old man accusingly. I did, he replied. What for? I told you, that's Jojo. I turned from the old man to study the horse again. What is going on? I get that the old man runs this place, but this old poor boy is on death's doorstep. Jojo, what's the significance of that? Jojo? The myth? The legend, in fact? No horse had ever set a foot in front of Jojo, and they'd come far and wide to try. I studied the horse some more. Ah, it has to be, and the old man's no fool. That's Jojo, I wheeled back to the old man. What happened? Well, like you said, over the last 2 or 3 years, he's had the guts run out of him, passed around a crew of young fools. His voice trailed off. You gonna call Doc Hespler for his leg? Doc Hespler is the veterinarian and was trusted, well thought of and well spoken of. He was the only vet the old man would have ever considered calling upon beyond his own expertise and that of his peers. No, the old man replied, Hesper's already seen him more than once. From this I deduced the old man, Hespler, and every horse in southern Ontario was aware of where Jojo was at this very moment. It's up to the horse now, Scotty, the old man said, turning in departure. What am I supposed to do with his leg? I cried. Same as always, best as you can. It's really just up to him now. You actually paid for him, didn't you? Dearly. But your mother needn't know that. Well, then I guess I needn't buy any more fuel for my tractor then. Do the best you can, Scotty, the old man managed, turning in departure. That's Jojo's backstory. Now on this spring day, he was as usual trailing along at the back of the herd. Jojo eyed me with his customary wariness, and as I approached as always, I assured him I had no intention now or ever of throwing a leg over his broad back. Don't worry, Jojo. The old man's going to find you some young gal. Your life will be sunshine and sugar cubes, curry combs, and nothing more asked of that than the occasional light canter. I fed Jojo the last of my sugar cubes, and as I turned away was surprised when he gave me a gentle bunt on my shoulder with his nose. This was the first time in almost a year of interaction with the big fellow that he'd ever displayed any emotion towards me, or anyone for that matter, other than just cool disdain. He decided to live. All right, Jojo, I laughed out loud. I'll tell the old man to start looking. Mildly intoxicated, with youthful exuberance, the days, the horses, the new colts and fillies, Jojo, and the smell of spring mud on the warm breeze, I turned towards the swollen creek. Laughing gaily, I pole vaulted across the stream on my staff. Well, most of the way across. As I stood at first one foot and then the other emptying the muddy cold water out of my rubber boots, I thought again about the wee knife in my pocket and Todd and I that day in the ravine. As I drifted to the south following the flooded creek, checking for anything that was or might have been a hazard to the horses, I pondered my impending workload. It was slack at this time of the year by far. There were indeed a multitude of hooves to be cleaned, checked, filed, and trimmed. No snow to plow, no grass to cut. A rapidly diminishing need to lug hay bales. 1 or 2 weeks more, a few just dry enough to tend the dilapidated quilt work this fences. That was my workload. Drifting along down beside the glistening water, I watched and listened to killdeers as they flitted about with their distinctive namesake cry. I knew spring was truly here. Arriving at the top of the ravine, I thought first of Eddie. Oh, that little stream's been busy, as the little stream had eroded nearly 20 yards further than from that fateful day where Todd and I had been down in there. Standing comfortably, staff in hand, where previously Ernie, Todd, and I had that day not so long ago, staring down into the black horror, almost now looked benign. Still a serious hazard to a grown man, and not something you'd want to think of it as a child being anywhere near. But I was comfortable and confident, staff in hand on firm ground in the gentle breeze. My toes weren't gnawing at my boots, and my spleen was good with it. I pulled the great-great-grandpappy McIntyre Davy Crockett Alamo knife Todd had so slyly slipped earlier into my pocket, waggled its feeble wee blade about. Finding a protruding stone underfoot, and with some effort with my soft-soled rubber boots and some fiddling about, I managed to fold the blade over and pop the rivet. "Here you go, fucker," I laughed to Ernie's devil as I tossed the wee knife into the water. "A matched set of mementos. Use them as bookends."